Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live via SHR Media and streaming live via Facebook. And my guests today I actually have two guests today. We're doing something a little unique and different on Money Talk with Melanie. I'm going to see if I can make if the adjunct professor in computer science can make all the technology work today. But I'm excited about this because I think it's gonna be a great show because of the guests that I have today. My guests today are Sarah Holden. She is the Director of Retirement and Investor Research at Investment Company Institute. And I also have with me today Tina Kilroy. She's going to be on video with us. Sarah's on the phone and Tina's going to be on video with us. I'm very excited. And she, just make sure I have her title right, is the Vice President of Investment Company Institute Foundation. Make sure I got that. I'm sure they'll correct me if I got that wrong. So I'm very excited to have both of them on the show today. And I'm hoping that all the technical stuff is going to work out. I'm a little nervous, but that's okay. Live radio, go live. Just go ahead and do it. But before we talk to them, a little bit of housekeeping. I haven't said this in a while, so if you have not liked my Facebook page yet, please go to at Money Talk with Melanie and like my Facebook page. If you haven't followed me on Twitter yet, please go ahead and follow me at Money Talk Mel. You'll get all the archive shows. You'll get to see the shows as download. You can catch up with the latest shows and all the latest information if you guys follow me on Twitter. If you're really ambitious or really crazy and you want to follow my political musings, you can follow those at NJGOP Diva. Follow me there if you dare, because things get a little crazy. But I want to talk a little bit about the Money Talk news. I have like 2 minutes to do some Money Talk news. I thought that this was pretty exciting news. There's some new rules coming up that companies can allow workers to change their health care plans without waiting for the usual enrollment period to come around. So if you are usually newly uninsured, people have to wait 60 days to enroll in coverage. So I think that's pretty cool and exciting news for those of us who have life changes coming up anytime soon. Also, Uber wants to buy Grubhub. I am not too thrilled about that. I like my Uber and my Grubhub separately. I've never done Uber Eats, and I happen to really love Grubhub. Not that I have access to it in Cape May County, New Jersey, because the area that I live in is so rural. That we actually don't have access to Grubhub. That's another story. But that's another story. So I thought those were two just exciting news tidbits. In the political realm, just really quick, the names of the people who unmasked General Flynn's name were released this afternoon. Get your popcorn out, ladies and gentlemen. I just think that's pretty exciting news on a political front. And we all, if you follow politics at all, we all know what that means, and it's going to get a little crazy. So I'm going to go to a quick commercial break before I bring on my guest. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. My guests today are Sarah Holden and Tina Kilroy. They are both from the Investment Company Institute, and I'm very excited to have them on the show today. We'll be right back. A brand new Ron Edwards notebook coming your way right now.
Much has been written in recent years to try to totally dismiss the indisputable fact that America was founded upon the biblical principles of Judeo-Christianity. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, if you gather all know-nothing history revisionists into one little room, try as they may, they would not have the power to change or get rid of the facts. Anyone who examines the original writings, personal correspondence, biographies, and public statements of the individuals who were instrumental in the founding of the United States will discover an abundance of quotations revealing the profound extent to which their thinking and their lives were influenced by a Christian worldview. That is not to say that all of the founding fathers were Christians, although most were. But even the few that were not Christians were still deeply influenced by the principles of Christianity. We can easily be so distracted wondering if Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson ever placed their personal faith in Jesus Christ that we easily miss the fact that all of the founders not only thought from a biblical perspective, but many of them lost everything, including their lives, so that America could be free from King George and today would remain free from domestic tyranny. I'm Ron Edwards.
Ron Edwards, the new voice of America.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Don't just pass the IRS exams. Why not pass them all and get a solid tax education too? Visit irsexams.school and let the Tax Mama staff get you started today. All our live and self-study tax courses offer you the convenience to study online on your own time and have everything you need to succeed. Tax Mama teaches you tax law, practice, and representation from the ground up. That's irsexams.school. Why wait? Get enrolled today in our premium course or the self-study class. That's irsexams.school. It's way more than just a review course. It will improve your entire future.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. My guests today are Sarah Holden and Tina Kilroy. I'm going to bring Tina Kilroy into the live stream right about now and introduce her first. Welcome to the show, Tina Kilroy. And I have on the phone Sarah Holden. Sarah, how are you?
Doing great. How are you, Melanie?
Good. I want to make sure I can hear Tina too. Hi, Tina.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Excellent. I'm so glad. Last week, for some reason, I couldn't hear my guests, and it freaked me out a little bit. I was afraid that it was something that went wrong over here, but it is not. Welcome to the show, ladies. So before we get into the meat of what we're going to talk about today, which is doing some financial house cleaning, which I think in the days of COVID, we're probably doing a whole lot of different types of house cleaning, but have we thought about our finances? And so Sarah Holden and Tina Kilroy are going to help us with that today. Tina, you go first. Can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, I work at the investment company Institute in sort of a dual role in their public communications department, as well as I'm the vice president of the ICI Education Foundation. And that is the educational affiliate of ICI. And we have a very simple mission to promote investor education. It was founded in 1989. So we've been doing that for over 30 years now. We generally partner with other nonprofit organizations to bring investor education to a wide variety of audiences.
Excellent. And Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So the Investment Company Institute is the trade association for regulated funds globally. So in the United States, we represent mutual funds and exchange-traded funds and closed-end funds and unit investment trusts. And we seek to encourage adherence to high ethical standards and to promote public understanding and otherwise advance the interests of funds, their shareholders, directors, and advisors. And I'm in the research department there. So we put out a whole lot of research and data on mutual funds and exchange-traded funds, which are great investment vehicles. But then we also spend a lot of time studying what retirement savers are up to. So individual retirement account owners or 401k plan owners to understand what's going on with retirement savings as well.
I love it. So you guys are definitely two people that we want to talk to about cleaning out our financial closet. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. This is fantastic. So let me ask you, these are some very turbulent times that we have going on in finances. With COVID, we had 30 million people file for unemployment last week. We have the market, which is just fluctuating wildly at this point, particularly when there are certain things. You used to be able to count on the market when certain things happen in the market, certain financial things happen, but that's not the way the market is working anymore. What's your best advice on how to navigate that with your personal finances? I'll ask Tina to go first.
Sure. Well, I think one thing that we see, and Sarah can speak to the data and the research that she sees behind this really well, but for people who are able to still keep investing and stay invested, stay the course, it's really the best thing that you can do right now. There's certainly volatility in the markets as we see, but over the long term, sticking to your plan, sticking to your investment plan, that's the way to go.
And Sarah, thank you so much. And Sarah?
Sure. So we actually have a whole lot of data on what 401k plan participants do through these turbulent times, because we've gone through spells like this before where the market's gone down. So we had the tech bubble back in 99, 2000, and we had the great financial crisis, 2007 to 2009. And then we had COVID hit us, and the market did go down sort of more quickly in a shorter time frame. But these retirement savers have in place really a discipline to help them get through these times. And what we've seen historically is that 401k savers tend to stay the course. So if you're still at your job and you're still working, they continue to keep on contributing. And then we also see that they also tend to stay invested in the market. So fewer than 1 in 10 in any given time period rebalance either their assets in their account or the way that their contributions are being invested. And what this does is, if you think about it, you're doing this paycheck by paycheck, little by little. So each week you're buying some stocks. And when the market's down, you're actually buying them kind of on sale.
Right.
The prices are lower. And then when the market goes up again, your shares will go up in value and your account balance will go up in value. So we've seen that really the discipline of the retirement savings system of doing it little by little and buying when the market's down and you just keep on going, people tend to sort of ride through these rough times. Now, that's not to say, I'm sure all of your listeners are checking their accounts online or phoning into the call center to sort of make sure that their account is still there.
And there's still any money in there.
People do.
Right. It's very true, but people don't want to panic or make emotional financial decisions, do that?
No, so they go and they look, and many of them, that's just what they do. They just go and look and sort of see it's still there. What some folks will do is while they're on their plan sponsor website or their IRA provider's website, these are financial services firms, there's a whole lot of educational material. And so sort of to our theme of as we've been, staying at home and sheltering at home and sort of sorting through closets, now might be the time to explore some of the materials that are on those websites that you have access to. So in the 401k plan, there'll be information on whether or not the employer makes contributions. And you'll want to make sure that you're contributing enough to really get that full employer contribution, because often what you'll get depends on how much you put in. So a common formula that's used is if I contribute 6% of my salary, the employer will give me 50 cents for every dollar I put in. So if I go up to the full 6%, I'll get a whole 3% more put in by the employer. But if I don't go all the way to the 6%, I won't get it all. So you want to be sure that you're taking full advantage of that. There will be information on risk and return, stocks versus bonds. And so there'll be a whole lot of really helpful material on that website that now might be a time to sort of go visit that and take a look.
That's actually a great recommendation. That's huge, because a lot of us don't take the time to look at that and don't meet with our finance person or our HR person, with whoever we meet with, to ask the details about our retirement fund. So now's a really good time. That's a very good suggestion. I like that. Now,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I would also just add that if you are if you're at an employer where you have a 401k and you are automatically enrolled, you should really go check and make sure that they automatically enrolled you at a contribution rate to get that full employer contribution. And then you also should check to see what fund they invested you in. Now, often it'll be a target date fund, and a target date fund is a great investment because it's diversified and it rebalances for you over time. So if you're young, it will have a lot of stock in it to reach for that growth while you're young.
Sure.
And then as you're approaching the target date, which is the date you expect to retire, it'll become more focused on income, because as you enter in retirement, you'll be thinking about possibly tapping that account and drawing income from it. And so it'll rebalance for you. But you might want to take a look to see if you're happy with that target date fund. Typically, there's on average 21 funds in a 401k plan, and they have international stock and domestic stock, variety of bonds. you might want to look around if you're more of a do-it-yourself investor to see if you'd like to take advantage of some of the other offerings in the plan.
Now, does that work the same way for a 403B as it works for a 401k? Those people who work for public entities that have 403Bs, does that work similarly?
Yes, it sure does. So 401k is the section of the Internal Revenue Code that those plans fall under, and they're typically offered by private sector employers. And then a 403b is really the equivalent plan for someone who works for either a public sector employer or a nonprofit or a university or a school or hospital. But the plans are very similar. So you'll have a lineup of investment options. You'll want to be sure that you're taking full advantage of any employer contributions, because often it's a matching contribution in that space as well.
Yes.
And yet, same thing. It's just a question of where you work, what sections of code you fall under.
Yes, very good. I work in the public sector, and I've worked in the private sector as well. And I know that there's certainly some differences, and people, they have these codes, and it's like, what is that for? What's that code for? So I wanted to make sure that we made that distinction, that there, as far as your investing habits, there's not much of a big difference. Now, because of COVID, and, we have a businessman in the White House, we have a couple of new laws that are in place. We have the Secure Act, and we also have had the CARES Act. What advice, I'm going to go to Tina on this one. What advice would you give to savers as far as how these different acts can affect their savings? Let's start with the Secure Act first. Give us a little bit of an overview of what that is and how that might help.
Yeah, of course. Well, there are some things in there that should be really interesting to savers. One of them is that the Secure Act raised the required minimum distribution age for defined contribution and defined benefit plan savers. So instead of starting to take out money when they're 70 and a half, they can wait an extra year and a half at least when they're 72, and they can start taking money out then. So that gives them extra time to keep saving, to keep contributing. And there's a similar provision for IRA contributions where you're allowed to make contributions to your IRA regardless of your age. So as long as you're earning income that's qualified to go into the plan to an IRA, you can do that, which is great for people who may be working longer, who want to kind of protect their retirement assets as long as they can.
And lots of people are working longer these days, so that's really important.
And it's good to have the flexibility if you may find that you need it.
Sure,
so that can be really helpful. Another thing that is really helpful for part-time workers in the Secure Act is long-time part-time workers. It makes them easier for them to join into a 401k plan where they work. So that's a great provision as well.
Excellent. And what about the CARES Act? I believe that's the newest one.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with what's in the CARES Act. I'm sure Sarah can speak to it really well in terms of what it offers for savers.
Sarah, would you like to chime in on that one?
Yeah,
sure. So the CARES Act is aimed at helping folks who were impacted by COVID. And in the retirement space, it does that by allowing access to more of your accounts through either a withdrawal or a loan. But it also does it in a way that you can put the money back. So if the plan sponsor adopts the provision and you take a hardship withdrawal, you could be allowed to pay it back into the plan over the next 3 years. So you'll be able to get the money put back in. With a loan, you can always pay it back into the plan. But if you're having trouble right now with the loan payments, there's a provision that allows you to, I think, delay them a bit. The other thing that the CARES Act had in it is typically if you take what's called a hardship withdrawal, whether it's from your IRA or from your 401k, you're hit with a 10% penalty. And so if you were impacted by COVID, that penalty will be waived. So the idea, I think, is to allow access, because we recognize this is a tough time, to those retirement accounts, which are earmarked for retirement. And people really want to keep them earmarked for retirement. But in this tough time, allow you to have a little bit of flexibility, but in a way that you could put the money back, when things improve.
And hopefully things are going to improve. Thank you. It's really scary out here with the whole COVID thing and what it's doing to the markets and what it's doing to we had a booming economy that all of a sudden got wrecked. It's crazy. And so it's crazy how quickly that it happened. 3 months ago, none of us would have thought that the economy would look like it is. And quite frankly, I'm surprised. I don't know if you two share this feeling, but I'm surprised that the market has held up the way that it has under the circumstances.
There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think that bleeds into all areas.
Policymakers and market participants have really been trying to work through it. Yeah. And I think that, when we look over to, what individual workers are doing or have done when they've been faced with these kinds of rough patches before, for the most part, people do try to stick to the plan. We know that during the great financial crisis, that many folks just kept saving at their regular saving rate, but some did have to step back a bit, but then they caught up later. So, don't kick yourself if right now we're going through a tough patch. You maybe have to reduce contributions or stop saving for a bit. You can catch up later. And indeed, in the law itself, if you're 50 or older, you're actually allowed to contribute more than the folks younger than 50 because policymakers recognize that, people sometimes do need to catch up.
Exactly. Thank you so much for that insight. I'm sure a lot of people were not quite sure what that particular legislation was about. Now I want to talk a little bit about when things do get better. I'll bet these kinds of accounts, the 529 accounts, are probably some of the ones that are being cut back on, right? Kind of considered something extra in this day and age as far as what you're putting aside for savings. Can you describe to the audience what a 529 account is and how you can incorporate it into your savings plan, Tina?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's something interesting about the related to COVID that I think affects 529 plans directly, where if you have been given a tuition refund that was paid for originally with money from a 529 plan, you can contribute it to that plan and it won't affect, your tax implications or anything like that. So for people out there who are getting money back from colleges or universities that they paid for with that money, it's really important for them to know that they can do that without, incurring any issues in that way. So a lot of people use 529 plans as sort of an automatic investment, sort of like a 401k or an IRA where you set it up. You might sort of allocate a certain amount of money every month to the plan. And it really makes it very simple and very easy to save for a financial goal. 529 plans obviously are saving for education. So originally, they were made to save for colleges or universities. They've since been expanded where now you can use the money in a 529 plan for elementary or even secondary education. So they've expanded significantly. I don't know the numbers of how assets are used. The data that Sarah's team tracks is only the assets that are actually in the plans and the number of counts. But 529 savings plans have been growing significantly over the last several years. They currently hold over $370 billion. So they're growing. People are using them. Yes, absolutely. And they're popular for a reason. I think they offer flexibility in terms of how you invest the money as well as how you take the money out. You have to name a beneficiary for the 529 plan account when you open it. So you have to name like a child or a nephew or somebody that you are opening the account for. But later on, I think people are sort of nervous. Oh, what if my kid doesn't go to college? Or what if they, go ahead and do something else? You can easily change the beneficiary on the account. So you can even make it yourself later on down the road. If you decide that you want to go back for continuing education, you can make it, I think, even for a grandparent. So it can kind of go generationally. And they've since expanded what you can use it for as well, where you can use it for apprenticeship programs. So that's great for people who maybe don't go to college, but they go to study other things. And you can even now, this was part of the Secure Act, you can even use it to repay student loans. So that's a really interesting benefit for people who maybe have some student loan debt. They can save in a 529 plan and use the tax benefits that come with that, and then use it to pay down their loans. So there are both federal and state tax benefits. for 529 plans where you can generally deduct it from your income on your state income taxes.
Amazing. I didn't know.
Yeah, so it's really important to look, if you're interested in opening a 529 plan, look at your state first and see sort of what does my state offer, and if it is possible for you to take advantage of those tax benefits. Otherwise, you can shop around, look at different states, see who has a good plan for you, compare fees and things like that. But they're a great option, and I think it's really helpful to have sort of a dedicated earmarked account where you can say, this is for, juniors college fund, and even little by little, just sort of setting it up automatically, having that steady little drip drop every month going into that account really makes a difference over time, especially if you start when they're young. So
I think that's interesting. And I didn't know I didn't realize that you could use them for elementary school or like middle school. And a lot of people are some people are probably thinking, well, how do you use it for that? Well, go ahead.
Well, no, if you have a student in a private school, it's a possibility. I do think, to me, college is such a big looming expense that I'd be interested to see how many people actually take advantage of the elementary and secondary. But if you have a long time horizon and you can save for a long time and get some money set aside, it's great.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting about that. I worked for a private school for 14 years that started off at $5,000 a year in kindergarten, and it ended at $30,000 a year once they got to, once they got
yeah, that's eye-popping. That's like college, yeah.
12th grade. So literally, even if you go to an Ivy, you might be saving money by the time your kid gets to college. It's crazy. By the time your kid gets to college, it's really insane.
Well, it's good to know that tools like this are out there and that they can be really helpful for people.
It is. It certainly is. I did not realize you could use it for private school too. So as soon as your kid is born, you might want to start that 529 real quick.
Yes, it's worth looking into.
Certainly.
Definitely.
Now, ladies, I'd love to talk to you about our investment IQ. A lot of times either somebody else is investing for us or somebody's very new to investing and doesn't quite know what we're doing. What are some ways that we could expand our investment IQ? Tina, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I think one of the most important things that I think about is to start with a trusted source if you're interested in learning more about investing. So go someplace that is trustworthy. I think the ICI website is a great place to start, ICI.org. We have impartial, fact-based research and sources there that you can link to. The ICI Education Foundation's website, which is ICIEF.org, also has a resources tab for investors that links to different trusted sources that they can refer to and use when you're getting started. So we don't make any sort of recommendations about products or things that you should use, but we do have a lot of great resources to learn more, which is important.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't want to use a source that is after your money, that's trying to get into your pockets, right?
Yes, but that being said, if you do have something like Sarah said earlier, if you have a 401k or you have an IRA, those are also great places to get resources. That's a trusted source. Your employer or your employer sponsor retirement plan, the plan sponsor. So those are great places. They have a ton of resources for savers and other people who are in the same boat as you, who are trying to make these decisions about their long-term financial health. So it's a good place.
Excellent. Sarah, your suggestion?
Definitely start with, if you have a 401k plan or the 403b plan, you start with your plan website, because your employer set up that plan to attract you to come work there. It's an employee benefit. And so they put a lot of thought into designing the plan and selecting a range of investment options to give you, a good range of risk and return. And then there's a lot of educational materials there. The other thing you can do is reach out to, when we look at where people own IRAs, for example, a majority of folks go through a financial advisor or a broker. And so if you want to reach out to someone like that, go to the website of the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA. They have something called Broker Check, so that you can check out the individual that you're contemplating doing business with. And then you'll have someone who can, walk you through a whole range of options. When you open an IRA, really the entire retail market is at your feet. You could invest in mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, individual stocks, individual bonds. So some folks will get help with those decisions. But we also have a bunch of investors who are what we call the do-it-yourselfers, and they'll do research by going to, the IRS website and looking up what the information the IRS has on the various plans, or the Department of Labor's website. If you are self-employed or a small business, the Department of Labor has a nice brochure that explains all the different types of plans that you could open. So as a small business, you could open a 401k. As a self-employed person, you could open up a 401k. So they lay out, they're the regulator that's regulating that space. So they're completely neutral, and they lay out the full range of options that are available. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you can go online to a discount broker. You could go online directly to a fund company, and then you choose all the investments on yourself and do the research yourself. So really a full range of options, whether you want to get help or whether you want to do it on your own. Lots of ways to go about getting out into the market, and really the key is to take that step and look into either the 529 or an IRA or the 401k, so that you can, get that long-term savings goal taken care of little by little for yourself.
Excellent advice. Now, we're talking about cleaning out our financial closet. And with COVID going on, and with there being such fluctuations, with things just going on in the area of money, do you have any recommendations on how we can keep our money safe in this day and age? This is I think financially, a really tough time for people to navigate and know what to do. What are some recommendations for keeping your money safe? Tina?
Yeah, you're right. I think about the uncertainty around things right now. I think it's best to focus on controlling what you can control right now, because so much seems out of control. If you're able to keep saving, that's something you can control. Keep doing it. If you're able to start saving, which I know seems crazy right now for a lot of people, but then do what Sarah said and start looking into options and see how you can sort of get your financial house in order. But for some people, if it's an opportunity of they have more time, they're not doing as much, but they're still getting paid, then maybe it's a way that they can start. And if you're able to keep going, I say keep going. And if you're not able to keep going and you have to allocate your financial resources to more important sort of basic needs right now, do what you have to do and then come back to it when you can. That's the most important thing.
I like that. And Sarah?
I really think the key thing here is you have to look to yourself and ask yourself, how do you feel about risk and return? So how do you feel about investing in stock, where stocks will go up, but stocks will go down? And, 8 out of 10 401k participants say, knowing I'm doing this little by little makes me less worried about those short-term fluctuations. But that's something everybody has to ask themselves is, what's your stomach for fluctuations? And keep that in mind. And then the other thing to keep in mind is diversification. So don't go try to find, that one great thing. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. So you want to diversify and, get into a nice diversified portfolio that has a variety of stocks and a variety of bonds. And that way you don't have all your eggs in one basket.
That makes a lot of sense. That's for sure. Now, let me ask you this. If you really don't want to manage your finances yourself and you want to look for a financial advisor or something like that, what's some advice that you would give people for looking for a financial advisor? You're like, I really don't have time, even though COVID's going on. I really don't have time to research this stuff myself. I want to look for a financial advisor. How would you go about doing that? Tina, what would be like?
Well, I would just jump in and say, you still have to do your research, I think, and understand who you're working with on some level. Even if you're not the one picking the investments, you still need to look into who you're going to be working with and how they'll be getting paid. I think Broker Check, like Sarah said, is a great resource if you're looking for a broker.
If you have a Bernie Madoff type person, if all your investments are going like this, straight up, then there's probably a problem.
You want to know who you're working with and how they're getting paid. And there are resources to do that research. So that's really important that you brought that up.
Yes, exactly. And how they're getting paid is really important too. There's a lot of times there's a lot of hidden fees and things like that you're not even aware of, and that they're not going to lead with, hey, this is going to cost you this much for me to supervise your money or manage your money. A lot of times they're not going to tell you that, or they're going to use some financial speak that you're not necessarily familiar with. And
you should make sure that you understand the investments that you're investing in.
And I would say ask them to, if you don't be shy, ask them to explain you're paying them.
Right.
Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I would just echo that the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, also has a lot of investor-friendly educational material, and often has the questions that someone should ask, and they should get answers before they proceed. So there's a lot of disclosure out there in the financial market, and the SEC lays out the questions to ask and the kind of information and the different investments there are out there. And that's, again, a neutral source. It's a regulator over that market. And so they have very good neutral information to help people. Excellent.
And the Investment Company Institute, I'm sure, can be a source as well. Where can we follow you on? Is there any social media or any place where we can follow you to get more information? Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. ICI and ICIF are both on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And then you can also look at us up on our websites, which is ICI.org and ICIF.org.
Excellent. I want to thank you, ladies, for being on the show. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah, did you have something to add? Go ahead.
No, I would simply add that on ICI.org, we have a blog series where we'll talk about things like Valentine's Day, open up an IRA for your spouse is one of the topics. So we'll sometimes...
How romantic.
It's the best gift.
So if you want to see what other folks who own IRAs or 401ks have done, you can look at our information on millions of shareholders and what they've done with their accounts.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I want to thank you, ladies, for being on the show. That's Sarah Holden and Tina Kilroy. You guys are excellent, chock full of information. I felt like I was in class. That was fantastic.
Thanks for having us, Melanie.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I want to thank everybody who's listening to the show via a download. Everybody who's in the Facey chat, thank you so much for listening. And remember that all of this is very important because, after all, it's your money. Have a great night.